if you're suffering from anterior pelvic tilt and it feels like you are stuck with it for the rest of your life and whatever you're doing, it's not getting better, this video is for you. This is my story on anterior pelvic tilt and how I've been able to actually improve my anterior pelvic tilt big time, which helped with my jumper's knee, or got rid of my jumper's knee, helped with my super tight and overactive lower back, helped with my pelvic floor and my stomach bulge. So I had issues with my pelvic floor. I had a stomach that would always poke out. It always felt like I was full and heavy. I think my digestive system just couldn't work properly if your stomach is just always poking out. It helped with my popping hips, so my hips would just pop all the time as soon as I kind of did this. I had anterior pelvic tilt for over 20 years, and all of these issues I had. So jumper's knee, it started with jumper's knee, then my bad back started. So I had jumper's knee with 15, and then my bad back started. So I had all of these things for over 20 years, and it just, throughout the time period, I really wanted to give up and accept my anterior pelvic tilt, my duck butt. Like, you get frustrated when it doesn't get better. Like, whatever you do, you put in work, and I'm the type of person, I'll train, I'll work out, and I'll work for things. I played basketball, I always worked to get better. I went to university, I studied to get good grades, and I improved my jumping ability, things like this. I put on more muscle, was able to do a muscle up at some point. So you work towards things and then you want things to get better, right? But with me and my anterior pelvic tilt, it just did not get better. And I was into fitness. It just still did not get better. And this really took a toll on me, because you're stuck in, so my jumper's knee, if you have jumper's knee, it's super painful. So the tendon would always swell up. Mine would swell up here, right below the kneecap. It sometimes was on the side. I know some people get jumper's knee on the top. So I had that. I had my horrible back. So when I stood, I would stand. Every time I stood, so I'd be in this position here, my butt was just always out, my lower back was always stiff. It felt like my hip flexors did everything, and my stomach would always poke out, right? So I was not able to just get into, flatten my back out and get into this position. Just was not possible for me. My hips would always pop, so all I had to do was do this. My hips would pop all the time. Just tons of things, and it was annoying. It took, it got my athletic ability just went downhill when you're with jumper's knee. I was the only 15-year-old with jumper's knee, and overall, I learned that. So I tried everything you can do to fix your anterior pelvic tilt. I tried. So the braces. So I had the knee brace. I had the knee strap. I did tons of hip flexor stretching. Oh my goodness. So all of this type of stuff, all of this here, all of this stuff here, holding, the PNF stretching. So contract, release, really working on that. I tried the couch stretching. So at the beginning, I couldn't even get into the couch stretch. So I wasn't able to do this right here with my foot against the wall. My foot was against the wall. I had to always kind of, do this here, and I couldn't come up. I really had a difficult time coming up. I tried leg raises for my abs. I tried tons of ab work, planks, all kinds of things. I tried things for my back. So you're told with anterior pelvic tilt that your glutes and your abs are weak and your back and hip flexors are overactive. So I did everything that you're typically told to do for anterior pelvic tilt. I also, with my weak pelvic floor, I tried the Kegel exercises and all these other things. So I did everything, right? And none of it worked until this was maybe about 3 years ago that I tried adductor work. For some reason, I said, you know what, let me just try and figure out, because I didn't want to give up, anterior pelvic tilt and solving this. So I said, for some reason, I came across the adductors and started looking more into the adductors. And I realized there's a muscle, the pectineus muscle. I think this is why I came. The pectineus muscle is a small muscle, and it's also actually a hip flexor. But doing this stuff doesn't really get to it, right? So doing this type of stuff, really, you can really get to it. But so learning about the adductor, so not only the pertinius, the other adductor muscles as well, and learning about the adductors and how important they are in your pelvic control and how they work against the glutes. So if your pertinius muscle is super stiff and tight, your glutes cannot function properly. And that's why I always had a difficult time when I stood. I couldn't squeeze my butt. I mean, you would expect it's super normal when you're standing, when you're, I don't know, when you're playing defense, you're running, whatever you're doing, you're jumping, your glutes should always work. They're a huge muscle group. They're super strong. And they just never worked. And so I had a difficult time really just squeezing, as crazy as it sounds, just squeezing my butt when standing, or using my butt, my glutes when I exercise, when I run, jump, walk, whatever it is. I really had a difficult time. And this was frustrating because I knew I needed my glutes to take the pressure off my hip flexors. My hip flexors did everything. My lower back did everything. So once I found that the adductors actually playing a super important role, and I realized how difficult it was for me to actually do something like this, right? To lift. So at the beginning I couldn't really get that high. So to lift my leg up and hold, how my hips would always pop when I did this, or when I did something like this, and just figuring out that also the glutes, they're responsible for doing things like this, and they're responsible for doing externally rotating. So doing this here, right? The glutes are actually responsible for, and they work together with the adductors in order for you to do that, right? To externally rotate or to abduct the hip. So that's what your glutes are responsible for, and they work together with the adductors. And once I started working on my adductors, that's when everything really changed. I could finally tilt my pelvis, so like I did standing, which was crazy because I could finally feel actually how it is for your butt to work. It was so much easier when I exercised. When I started running, jumping, and playing basketball, I started to feel my butt. And I blame my anterior pelvic tilt for the fact that I didn't make it to the NBA. I feel like I should have went to the league, but it didn't happen. But not only did it help with that, it also helped with the development of my quad muscles. So at the beginning, I really had, so my jumper's knee, if you know anything about jumper's knee, the knee, basically you have different quad muscles that are attached to the kneecap. The kneecap sits in this groove and slides up and down, right? And if there's one muscle overworking, so this side overworking, it's going to pull on the kneecap in the wrong way, and the kneecap can't slide properly. However, I had super weak VMO. So this muscle, anyone knows, this muscle is super, super important, that this one's developed, it's strong, you feel it when you're walking, when you're running, when you're jumping, whatever you're doing, this muscle is super, super, super important. And it was super, super, super underdeveloped when I had anterior pelvic tilt and all of these issues, because my adductors were locked, and my adductors are super, super weak. And I don't know why I'm saying super all the time, but my adductors really attached. So I noticed a difference in my hamstrings and my VMO once I started working on my adductors. So if you are struggling with anterior pelvic tilt and you've tried all the couch stretching, the hip flexor stretching your lower back, you tried the glute strengthening, so things like glute bridges, you tried maybe ab work, so doing crunches and stuff, or hip flexor raises, or all this other stuff, and you tried all of these things and they're not helping with your anterior pelvic tilt, please take a look at your adductors and your ability to abduct your hips. Just take a look at those two and maybe get started with those before you continue. I know we can't do everything at once. Try to leave your hip flexor routine, put it to the side, and try working on your adductors. Yeah, so my main goal is I really want to solve anterior pelvic tilt because it was such a pain for me, and I know it's a pain for a lot of people. I know sometimes people have anterior pelvic tilt and they don't have any issues. There's tons of people who have anterior pelvic tilt with no issues. But if you're like me and you have everything that comes with anterior pelvic tilt, so the jumper's knee, the tight lower back, the overactive, stiff lower back, a stomach bulge, a stomach that's always poking out, maybe digestive issues because of that, always feeling bloated, popping hips, just all kind of stuff. Anterior pelvic tilt is super annoying. It's frustrating, it's painful. But yeah, so I know if you are struggling with anterior pelvic tilt, please, people, do not give up. If you tried all the hip flexor stretching and all of this stuff, please do not give up on solving your anterior pelvic tilt. I promise you it's possible. I did it by really stopping all the hip flexor stretching and really focusing on my adductors. Right? So I had, trust me, I had anterior pelvic tilt. It was so bad. My back was so stiff. And let me just break it down again. When I stood, I mean, if you're anything like me, when I stood, I was in this position. I was really locked. It was bad. My pelvis was just locked and I was unable to tilt it. Now, I mean, if you're looking here, I can get into, without bending my knees, I can flatten, level my pelvis out, right, and get into this position where I wasn't able. I had to bend my knees to do this beforehand. So I'm still not fully there yet. I really want to get to see if I can maybe get to this position here. Yeah, so where my back's even more flatter. I'm fine now. I don't have any, my VMOs developed, my adductors are stronger. I'm super fit now. I feel really strong, but this is just a goal that I have to continue to work on my adductors. So I'm not doing any hip flexor stuff or stretches, but I see the improvement that or I don't want to say I'm not doing any hip flexor stuff because the adductor, the pectineus, is a hip flexor, but it's like a hidden one, I guess. But I do see the huge improvement that has come with just working on my adductors. So maybe give it a try, work on your adductors, try to lengthen them, work on your ability to abduct the hip if none of this other stuff is working. So stay tuned, see ya.